Will you wander with me everywhere?
What's up, everyone, and welcome to the stream scene. We have a really cool episode for you guys. This is going to be the start of a series that we're going to do talking about streamer roles, because as you may or may not know, there's a lot of different things that streamers do and get involved in, with owning their own business, being the entertainer and the producer and the director all in one, and a lot of other things that you may not think about. So we're going to be talking about those today in an overview, and we'll get into some more in-depth discussions in future episodes. So without further ado, let me welcome my amazing, spectacular, enthusiastic co-host. Is that enough? Or do you want more?
Three's good.
Three's good. Okay.
Low bar.
The Hunter Wild. What's up, Hunter? How you doing?
Thank you, Loco. I'm a little under the weather, so Loco's probably going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting today, but I am totally juiced up on caffeine, so I do have that going for me. This subject is one that I spend an inordinate amount of time thinking about and rehashing and diving back in and trying to open up the scope for myself and then narrow it back down to what I really want to focus on with the different hats that, which is the term that I like using.
Is that why you're wearing a hat today?
That is exactly why I'm wearing a hat.
Crap, we all need to wear a hat. I got like 4 of them in a backpack over here.
I should have just had a pile that I switch out as we go.
I just got a Goon helmet. I could wear that.
Wow. Yeah, so this is a big one for me, and I'm very excited to hear what falls out of the brains of our two incredible guests today, Lula and Goobers. Hi, my friends. Welcome on in. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to share your wisdom and experience and knowledge on this particular subject with all these people. Now, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourselves one at a time, but you have to fight for who goes first. Who are you, and what are you about?
I ain't fighting.
Okay.
Hey,
nope.
What's up, you guys? Hi, my name is Lulaboo. I'm a cooking streamer, and I actually do 50-50 now, cooking and gaming, but most of the time we're doing a lot of cooking streams into the channel. Before I started streaming, I was back-end managing a lot of things for twitch.tv/Towley, so he is still currently my partner. I am still currently running back-end for him, and I am still currently trying to do a cooking/gaming stream at the same time.
That's a lot of hats.
Yep.
That's a lot of hats.
That's big hats.
Yes.
All right, Goobers, what about you?
Hi, I'm Goobers515. I am a variety caster, and I've decided to make all of my own hats from the ground up and then wear them all simultaneously until I decide to take them off and put them back on. So essentially, I do all sorts of different variety gaming and stuff like that, but I also do things like what's happening fairly soon, which is a massive charity fundraising event for St. Jude called Metal Meal Meltdown.
Yes.
Also talking about cooking, which is 8 days of us trying to get streamers for every single hour of 8 days straight for cooking and raising money for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, while at the same time myself also streaming on 6 of those days and coordinating all that. So I do that kind of stuff, community events. I'm also heavily involved in the team that I'm on Twitch, and there's I've been streaming since 2014. November 2014, and I've accumulated a lot of hats, so I'm sure we'll get into that.
That's surprising. It doesn't seem like you do that much, so it's just really
Wow.
Part of my persona is I'm just really loud but also lazy, and it's just it's to throw you off.
Yeah, clearly just not doing too much. So you said you've been streaming for 6 years. I've been going for 6 years. Hunter, you've been streaming for a ton of time too.
6.
And Lula, you're interesting because you actually have did you stream before you started management, or how did that happen?
So back in 2012, I was the #1 SWTOR streamers for Star Wars: The Old Republic. I was not good, but I have a great personality, so it usually gets me pretty darn far. No, I was doing a lot of light streaming, but I was going to culinary school and working full time supporting my streamer boyfriend at the time, who wasn't exactly, super big at the time. So I was doing a lot of light streaming really, really early on, and it's man, I have seen some stuff, and yeah, it's one of those things to where you kind of accumulate a lot of knowledge and a lot of things that you kind of have to do for yourself. And oh man, it's been pretty crazy. I'm sorry, what was the question again?
No, you answered it. So you started streaming before you did the management side of things.
Right. Well, okay. It was always kind of a thing where there wasn't much to it back in 2012. Like, early on, there wasn't a lot going on. In fact, it was more like you're trying to approach people back in the day who are like, oh, hey, so you do social media for this game or this company? Hey, so you don't know what this is, but this is a website where we stream video games. And so all the questions are like, who the heck are you? What the heck is this website? Why should I give you a key? I don't even know you. Like it was a completely different battle back then than it is today. So thankfully it's a hat of slinging yourself and trying to explain Justin or Twitch is no longer a thing. Thankfully now I can just be like, hey, that dude Ninja, I do the same thing, but like really
I'm Ninja, yeah, almost. Yeah, it's interesting because, the point that I was getting at is that streaming has changed so much in the last 6 years. And I feel like the different roles that streamers have had for making this a career has changed drastically as well. When you guys started, did you see that there was like more to streaming than just streaming? Or were you just like, I'm just going to hit this button and see what happens?
I think that at least for me, when I started streaming, honestly, I kind of took that approach of like, I'm gonna hit this button and see what happens, and just like I have a tendency of like taking things to the nth degree. Surprise, surprise. But like knowing that about myself 6 years ago, I was like, let's just do this. Like the point of this is to have fun. The point of this is just to go in there. Like I'm not working on this. I'm not focusing on making this anything yet. I'm just doing it because it's fun. And I started streaming, and then one thing led to another, and there were cool opportunities here and there, and I went for them. That sounded fun. And you just, over the time, just accumulated a lot of different things. Like knowing about a lot of those hats was probably something that I was aware of at a time, but the depth of each responsibility is something that is almost impossible to communicate unless you yourself are privy to that, experiencing that yourself,
Yeah, I feel like when I started, I had no idea. Like I was definitely I'm gonna hit the start streaming button and I did not have any expectations.
See what happens.
Yeah. I had no aspirations to do this full time when I started. I really didn't see the big picture until it just started to happen. And then over time, you kind of evolve and things get serious. When it becomes your job, there's definitely some added roles to that, just, as a whole separate thing. I think with streaming itself, like there's a set of roles for just streaming, and then there's like the business side of things. Like when you start to do this as a career, it becomes a business, right? Like you have like the business side of things, which for me, I did not expect at all, or had no idea even how to do those things, because I didn't go to school for that stuff. I didn't plan to do this at all,
I think the other thing to keep in mind is the fact that like when you start streaming and you're maybe past the point of like, I'm just having fun now, I'm taking it seriously, but it's not my job yet. And even into the early phases of it's not my job, there is a kind of scramble to take whatever you can. We're hungry, we grabbed anything that we could because it was an opportunity that we didn't have. There was just nothing else. So we did that. And then, eventually, like knock on wood, I'm very lucky and fortunate, many of us are, that at that point, there is another point in which then it becomes less about grabbing everything and more about prioritization, which is, I would argue, the final phase of that. And that is one of the, in my opinion, and it could just be because I have majorly ADHD, that prioritization is ridiculously difficult. How do I value one hat or opportunity or thing over another? How do I do that? What do I, yes, I use metrics. Okay, great. But that's only part of it, because metrics are only like kind of informative as far as how things are going to work. And that prioritization aspect is just, That's,
Oh yeah.
we're still there.
There's a lot to it. Holy crap. No, you're right. Because when it gets to the point where you like start streaming, you start, okay, let me just, fool around and do whatever. Like, oh my God, guys, I have somebody coming and watching my channel. You do get to that point where like, okay, I kind of want to like do better than what I'm doing right now. But you get to but as starting out, not knowing anything, especially when you guys are talking like 6 years ago, it's like, where do I even like, maybe I should mess with my OBS settings. Maybe I should start messing with my, maybe I should get a better microphone, or at least mess with my microphone, or maybe I should like do what I did, put a sock, for a makeshift, stuff like that. So it was, it comes to that point where you start accumulating all the information, and it's hard because people like hoard information about making yourself better, and they hoard it like dragons. Hoarding gold in a cave. And so it's really hard sometimes to kind of go out there and figure out, okay, so because nobody's out there kind of being like, okay, here's the best OBS settings, here's the best, here's how you can just do better without having to do too crazy amounts or invest too much because you're still starting out, and oh my God, this it's costing a lot of money. So it gets to that point where you start having to like try to accumulate knowledge, find out what you're good at, and that's where you find out where a lot of your hats are. Some people are really good at social media management and social media, and being a really big hype man. So if you can be your own hype man, which is one of the hats that is really important, especially early on, is to like get your own hype out there. And that's under an umbrella of so many things of like, clips, making sure you have good clips, making sure you have, let's see here, putting your best front out there on social media and social media management, and then social media management of analytics. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I feel like as both of y'all were talking about it, the thing that kept bouncing up in my head is that there's sort of this, it's almost like a double funnel. It's like a diamond shaped kind of process. When you're starting out, oftentimes you maybe have a vague idea of a few of the roles that you have to play. Yeah. And then as you get deeper into it, you see these opportunities where you're like, oh, using this other platform in this certain way, like here's where I'm going to be posting this stuff, and then here's where I'm going to be posting this other type of stuff. And then when I'm on stream, I want to have these maybe calls to action. So then I got to shout out my own stuff in the right places. And you sort of expand the role set more and more. And eventually you get to that middle point where you're like, oh, this is way too much. This is literally impossible. And so then you start doing that prioritization thing where you try and funnel it down into the things that you're not only maybe, you don't have to naturally be inclined and to it and really good at it, but maybe it's just the things that you're like, this is what's gonna drive the goals that I want to hit the most is this particular thing. And I don't want to hand that off to anybody else. And I definitely don't want to sacrifice and remove it. So I'm going to figure it out. And then you boil that down to like, 3 or 5 different roles that you really want to focus on. Yep.
I mean, that's like, honestly, like funny enough, one of the things that I held on to from way back when, I think it was probably 2017, one of the first Drop Framed episodes, oddly enough, Zeke said something that I will never forget, which is just Twitch is all about accentuating your idiosyncrasies, which is just play up, make it weird, and it makes sense. Like that is the best way to hone in on who you are, what you're offering, and where you should be going. That doesn't mean that it's going to give you the goal, because I think that that's what helps you prioritize, is understanding a goal, right? A direction or something. And accentuating your idiosyncrasies helps, really drive the diamond head home. And when you know that, then you can always look at these, hats or roles or whatever, and you can say, okay, is this time I'm spending, is the amount of time I'm spending or effort I'm spending, because maybe it's just not so much time, but a ton of energy that I'm spending on this thing, helping me achieve my goal, like helping me achieve and accentuate that idiosyncrasy? Is it really allowing me to push to that point? If the answer is no, then you have to make the decision of, do I just cut it? Do I scale it down? Do I delegate? What do I do? And I say this now as it seems kind of, compressed and concrete and, succinct, but it's not. It's a horrible spaghetti mess of confusion every day, trying to figure out, I don't know if this is helping. I don't know. Is my goal changing? Oh, that's a terrifying thought, and just figuring all that stuff out on the fly every single day. It's just, you gotta continuously like understand where you're at, reassess constantly, reinvent, and drive towards that goal constantly.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like what you ultimately want to arrive at is simplicity. Have it boiled down to exactly what it is. Like if you had a God's eye view to just go like, no, really, you should only focus on these things. You're great at them. They drive you towards your goals. You can really grow with those specific things. And if you're spending so much time learning how to do something else that you're not already really prone to, you're spending so much more time for so much less benefit. Hone it in, focus on this stuff. The interesting thing about driving toward that simplicity of having that prioritized list of this is what you're going to do is that the process is incredibly complicated. And it continues to be incredibly complicated to get that simple result. And I think you have to embrace that complexity to eventually arrive at that simplicity in the outcome.
So I actually have a question for you guys. Did you guys ever have a point where, so you're starting streaming, you get going, it becomes your job, it becomes what you're doing, or what you're serious about and passionate about, and then you get to the point of going, I now know of all of these things. I now know that so I know the knowns, and I also know of the unknowns, right? Like that whole thing. So you know of this, and it's a huge, huge, huge sphere of like, there's no way one person could do this. There's no way. It's not possible. And it really isn't possible. It's not reasonable for anybody to assume that. But you get to that point, and then you like have that moment of like, I can't accomplish this. Oh my God. And you freak out. And then slowly over time, you become comfortable being in the gray, being in the murk, being in the unknown, and being like, I think I'm doing this right.
I think that's like all the time too. Like, being a streamer in general is always just going to be like getting out of your comfort zone for whatever reason.
Absolutely.
Right.
And for me, it was learning how to video edit. I literally sat down and I learned Adobe After Effects and Sony Vegas Pro in a long 4-day weekend.
Weekend? That's like
incredible.
a 3-month project for me to probably have 50% capacity from you.
Sometimes it's about finding what you're good at. Some people are really good at reading analytics and breaking down stuff. There's a lot of ex-streamers out there who are now like either social media influencer relations or influencer relations or social media analytics. And, so sometimes it's in the process of being a streamer and finding out all the hats and learning all the hats, finding out what you're good at. Sometimes that can be a job for like a real job.
That's a great point.
Because I've seen a lot of streamers do that. Like I've seen, seriously, Clara did that. She used to be a streamer. Cinder Slays, who used to be Unholy Temptress, absolutely murdering it right now in her field at the moment. So a lot of the times finding out.
Would you say?
Slaying it, if you will.
Slaying it. Yeah, for sure. I'm sorry. I have to start. I'm trying to stop saying murdering it because it's a lot of negative connotations to that.
Kind of pun off her Twitter.
Yeah, no, I love it. But it's a lot of the times getting uncomfortable is kind of the only way you're going to be able to thrive. You're going to figure out a way. Sorry, I'm turning it back now. So finding that gray uncomfortableness, be comfortable being uncomfortable, because it's a really good way to figure out what you're made of, what you're good at, what possibly could turn into something different for yourself in the life in the future. You never know. Like that stuff gets crazy.
The fascinating thing for me, especially with the examples that you gave, because it's not like Cinder or seriously Clara were bad streamers, but taking that and turning it into an example like that doesn't actually equate to reality, a large number of people I think should be willing to embrace failure in streaming, frankly, in anything, because there's a lot of value in it. But embracing failure in streaming, there are quite a few people who really just, for any number of reasons, aren't going to make a good streamer over time in terms of the success that they demand of themselves. By failing at streaming, I think you can see that might not be your strength, but what was really fantastic? How did you really outperform other people? What really excited you about that engagement and that interaction and wearing all those different hats? Which of those hats fit the most comfortably? Then leverage that, convert that
Yes.
into here's where I want to move, because now I know that thing isn't working for me. This thing I'm really good at.
I think, you know, one of the things when you start streaming and get really into it is some people realize like streaming is not for them, like streaming as a career for many reasons, right? Like it's just, they're not cut out for it. They don't enjoy it. There's a lot of unknowns, as we've mentioned. And I think one of the cool things about streaming and all of these hats, although it may seem overwhelming, is the fact that you can pivot into something else with your experience. There's a lot of valuable jobs, you know, around the industry that
never used to be there. Now they are everywhere. I seriously, streaming is like a job creator for creatives, for analytic people. Like there's so much that has branched off of the business of streaming. It is unreal. We can totally have an episode just on that.
Jobs that haven't been invented yet.
Yeah, there are jobs that haven't been invented yet that are streamer centric, content creator. It's like the Wild West. Right now, we're kind of solidifying a little bit like cement on the streamer front, but like there are branching out things. There are things that are branching out that are a completely other topic on their own when it terms to like job creation and just new economy of content creation, all that. So
that's going to be another show in the future.
Yeah,
write that down.
Also, thank you, Loco, for saying the word of the day, which was pivot.
Clearly.
Yeah,
my bad.
That was yeah. I did want to mention the fact that, like, you know, the best way to understand the failure aspect, and I could not agree with you more, Hunter, about people willing to fail, and that's a whole nother topic that I've ranted about plenty of times, is that people need to be comfortable with failure. It's how they stand back up. It's not how they fell down. That defines who they are. And so the thing to consider about failure is if you're trying stuff and you're doing different things and you're like, I'll be completely transparent. One of the hats that I decided that I was going to pick up was being an art streamer for a little bit. A lot of the art stuff you guys see in the background, like that's all my stuff. I did spray paint stuff for a little while, and I got into it and I really enjoyed it. But at a certain point, when you start to wrap that into a business, again, the other hats start to surface. You start to understand what else is there. And part of that is understanding how far is too far for being stretched thin. You know, how far is too far and too much. And that was something that, unfortunately, it really didn't pan out. It was, you know, I started like a Patreon, I did all that stuff, and it was too much. It was too much. And I learned that about myself, that like one of the big things that I'm prone to is taking on too much, you know, as a straight up as a symptom of ADHD. And then I'll bring this up, I'm sure, again, is because it's pervasive throughout my entire life and a lot of other people's, is things like time blindness, you know, understanding how long something will take, how long something has been. You ever go play video games? You're like, I'm going to play for an hour. It's 4 a.m.
Never.
Oh, God.
Where'd I go? You know, like that whole thing. Yeah. Look it up. If you have ADHD, look up time blindness. It's a thing, and it's really common and destructive. But part of that is taking on too much. Think that you can handle it and not realizing the true depth of how long something is going to take you. And for me, that was one of them. I learned, I adapted, and ever since then, it's been like, okay, now I need to really pay attention to my workload, because that was too much, you know. And everybody should be considering that when they do something, when they change something up, when they do something to step out of their comfort zone. A failure does not mean that you are a failure. It means that it didn't work for you and you learned from it. Don't fail and not learn. Always learn from your mistakes, because something else in your life is going to get better because of it.
That's a great point. Yeah, failure without learning is actual defeat.
Yes.
You can't get that time back. But when you fail at something and you learn from it and then you can utilize that later, that was valuable time. You learned so much cool stuff that you can then use at something that you'll be successful at later. That failure converts into like a really brilliant stepping stone for the process of becoming the next thing that you'll be.
Mm-hmm. I think another aspect of this that can be a danger is when you're taking on too many roles, is becoming burnt out from all of it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I think as streamers, we're already super susceptible to burnout because it's a very free-flowing type position to be in that requires a lot of time and connectivity to social media, which is super draining. And when you're taking on too much and trying to be every single hat, every single role, burnout is going to be inevitable.
Oh,
Oh no, I totally believe it. If you don't pace yourself, if you're trying to sit there doing a million things at once, like oh my God, I'm going to do my own videos. I'm going to do my own, what is it? Graphic designs videos. I'm going to do my own, make my own alerts, or I'm going to like make sure that I'm on top of the YouTubes. If you're trying to do this all the time, you're definitely going to crash and burn. I have a really good example for you because I was doing videos. I was trying to take all of my like 6-hour long videos, condense my cooking streams down to like really edible bite-sized pieces of stuff that you can easily digestibly watch on YouTube, but it just got in the way of a lot of
there.
I'm sorry, what?
All the food metaphor, all the digestible,
I can't help
edible,
it.
bite-sized.
I do puns in my stream. It's a disease. No, it's one of those things where I got really overwhelmed. I stopped doing a lot of cooking stream, YouTube videos. And sometimes it's one of those things where we're feeling overwhelmed, but it's kind of giving you success. Sometimes you're just gonna have to do that thing where a lot of streamers don't like to do is to just kind of let a little baby go and hire somebody if you can to help you do some of the things that you do want to accomplish. Like, I know I'm going to have to buckle down and actually get a video editor one day. I'm not looking forward to it because I don't trust anyone. And I've got my own issues at hand when it comes to like trying to have somebody help me with like, production or social media or graphic design or video editing, stuff like that. It can get overwhelming. And sometimes you're just going to have to sit there and figure out if you can feasibly kind of let this go and have somebody help you with it or not, because that can be something that can help you. I know when you wear many hats, sometimes it's about figuring out which one you can pass off to somebody else to help you.
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely. I think this is definitely part of the whole prioritization of the hats, where there may be some that are super valuable, but if it's not your strength or it's taking up so much of your time or it's super draining, it's burning out, or if you don't even like doing it, then it's definitely worth considering bringing on someone that can do that, especially if this is your career, right? Like, you should be reinvesting it into your business and paying people to take on some of these things like video editing. If you don't know any video editing, is it worth learning and spending the time to not only learn, but then to actually be doing it yourself? Or is it worth your time to hire someone that can do it efficiently, right? And save a lot of your time, a lot of your stress. It really is about valuing not only priorities, but time is money kind of thing, right? Like,
Literally,
if this is your business,
time is money.
Yeah. And don't waste your time trying to hone all of your weaknesses. You should be focusing on your strengths, because it's impossible to be good at everything. It's impossible to do everything.
Yeah.
No, totally agree. It's for sure. It's one of those things where I have that problem too, where I'm like, I want to be better at my weaknesses, but sometimes when you are literally running a business, you kind of have to kind of put yourself where you are putting yourself at the best, shiniest light, I guess you could say, or shine yourself in the best light possible, because while you are sitting out there, streaming out in the space and still trying to do your thing, we're like, okay, this is just me. I don't care what about viewers. I'm going to just do my stream stuff. But at the same time, you kind of have to care about it. You kind of have to make sure that at least you're putting your best self possible out there when you're doing that. Gosh, I hope that makes sense.
It absolutely does. That I keep coming back to that time thing too.
Time.
The issue of time, because the way that I want to phrase it really simplistically makes it sound like you shouldn't try and learn stuff that you're bad at. And I don't mean to give that impression, but there really is that issue of having to find for yourself what that balance is, where that balance is going to be best. Because, there are things that if I focused on the things that I was already good at and spent time learning how to improve those, I'm going to get so much more value out of spending 8 times the amount of time and energy to learn how to do something at a basic level that I have no clue about and is definitely a weakness of mine right now. That ends up kind of being a waste of that time. So just wearing my prettier looking hat might be a better approach than putting on this really crappy hat that just looks abysmal.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna be at like in this industry, you're always gonna be learning something, right? Like, I do agree with what Hunter says. It's not about discouraging people from ever taking on new things, but doing it in, I think, like a stepwise manner and just, again, valuing priorities. Like,
Mm.
I'm still learning stuff. I've been doing this for 6 years and I'm still learning how to do new things, right? So it's a never-ending process. And one thing to think about is we kind of talked about this a little bit at the beginning of the show with the diamond thing that we were talking about with like the hats, right? You start out with one hat and that's streaming. And I think you should don't get overwhelmed with how many hats there are, how many roles there are,
I
right?
think that's a wise statement. Don't get overwhelmed with how many there are.
It's easy to watch this show and listen to this and be like, oh my God, like this is too much, right? And I think one of the things that a lot of streamers or aspiring streamers, trip over is, trying to perfect streaming before they've even streamed. I still think you should just start out with just streaming first before you try to do everything at once.
Absolutely.
I've had a lot of people come up to me and like, you've inspired me to do cooking streams, or you inspire me to do kind of streaming stuff. But before I even hit play, I want to make sure everything's perfect. And I get absolutely defensive in saying that, no, you should just do it right now. And just the way you are right now, because your stream is not going to look like the way it's going to look like now a year from now when you're streaming. Nobody's stream ever starts out looking exactly the same year after year, day after day.
Nope.
My stream, when I first started streaming, did not look the same as it looks now. Not even at the beginning of the year does it look the same as it does now. It's you that cannot be something like people need to shake off those nerves and just give it a shot, because there's a lot of practice to be made when it comes to streaming, because there is practice in learning how to be interactive with chat, in learning how to talk to yourself if there's no chat, in learning how, and that's kind of like another hat in itself, is to just learn how to be a presence while you are streaming, which I find a lot of people don't talk about enough. Is it's fine to have a good social media game. It's really fine to have the best looking graphics, which like 6 years ago, it wasn't even possible to go shopping on Nerd or Die or Visuals by Impulse, which by the way, sprung out because of gaming. I'm sorry. I'm going to keep talking about that. I'm so sorry. But anyway, people can just shop around and go on like Streamlabs OBS or Nerd or Die or VBI, just to like grab like a really perfect animated alerts and be right back screens, and you can just start. I wouldn't be afraid, especially when you can like pop down $15 and you're good to go. So it's one of those things to where like you just have to get started. And then from there, you kind of find your way to where, okay, I'm going to have to learn how to do this next, or I have to start learning how to, learn social media better. I have to start looking at these analytics and start learning how to do, data analytics and stuff like that. So that's where it starts. You have to start somewhere, and that's by hitting the go live button for sure.
Start with one hat and then figure that one out.
Yeah.
On your next hat, learn that a little bit. Like, don't try to spread yourself too thin before you've even started.
Absolutely.
There's that interesting thing that we talk about with regularity, the old adage about, your battle plans never last past the firing of the first bullet on the battlefield, right? It's like when your battle plans meet the enemy, everything goes out the window and suddenly you realize you have to change a lot of stuff. I feel like that is the exact same thing that happens with the setup that you described, where people want to get that perfection before they ever start streaming. I can guarantee you, without one exception, that if you got a perfect setup and then started streaming on your very first stream, you're going to go, that thing could be different.
Yeah.
Right out of the gate, you're going to be seeing stuff that you would like to change. So why not just let that happen organically instead of spending an extra 5 months trying to pre-perfect your stream and all of your engagements and interactions? You can let that build up kind of organically and with the community too, where memes that show up in your channel because of some weird thing that you say all the time, that can then become an alert, or can be its own kind of pop-up, and you don't have to worry about breaking some perfect system you designed. You're just adding and refining things over time, which I think is very, very valuable.
No, for sure. Absolutely. And it's one of those things, just, sometimes I tell people, listen, I'm going to be real with you. You're probably going to have 0 people watching you. So this is your time to practice. This is your
Yeah.
time to test out the new things. This is your time to test out
I said the
like
same
anything
thing.
you want. And it's the same thing. You're basically a beta tester too, because sometimes if some people who are like up there in viewers and, have, peak and all of a sudden they go back down to like lower numbers and they get really dejected about it. Sometimes it's about, kind of like, okay, well, this is the time to start playing with new things because
Yes.
why not? At this
You have
point,
so much wisdom. This is delightful.
oh, thanks. I try to I always have a lot to say, and I'm seriously scatterbrained. You're gonna have to really get me to stay on topic sometimes. So, but for sure is one of those hats is just to kind of knowing yourself. It's kind of hard to, and it's hard to say that for an abstract thing, but it's kind of like knowing who you are, what you want to do, what kind of content you want to create, so that you know how to hone in on what's the next hat you got to wear after that. So if you are stronger in talk show centric things, then go and lean into the talk show centric things. If that's what you feel you're better at, with maybe a side of the video game stuff, and part of that is just to stream and find it for yourself to figure out where it goes from there. And that means putting on an interviewer's hat and learning how to do better interviews and being able to connect with people more. And, I really appreciate you guys having a show like this because, like I said, the information out there is like guarded like dragons in their gold with caves. So to have more information out there, in terms of having stuff like streaming, it's always helpful.
We're a well-equipped party of dwarves heading into the caverns. I think we
Yes.
pry out all the goodies from the dragons.
Yeah, I think it's also like a lot of this information is so scattered. It's also constantly changing. It's very new, right?
Changing.
Like, so, what are some roles that you guys think are new to the space? Like, are there emerging roles?
Data analytics. Because not a lot of people. Oh my God, there's a spider on my wall. Not a lot of people are kind of preview on knowing how to read what the analytics are at the end of the day, at the end of the stream day. Let me assure you, there are social media people and other people outside of your personal stream that are looking at your analytics more than you. If you think that you never look at them, there's a definite, there's even certifications out there to get data analytics certified so you can know how to read all this information that came down. Yeah. Oh yeah. If you go to Code Academy, it's free-ish. If you go to Code Academy, they have this whole little intro where you can learn how to do data analytics. I'm almost there. I'm just finishing up Python. And so it's one of those things to where you're starting to see more and more people want to have data broken down better, to have a better argument of I should do this better because my analytics say I should do this, or I have favorable analytics doing this and stuff like that. So it turns into this whole thing where at least for me, data analytics is there. Management is starting to get more popular when it comes to
one.
Yeah. I think with I just wanted to add on to the data analytics thing. I think that is a large part because with Twitch, they've recently expanded what you can access. And there's also other sites and tools that are gathering that information too. So, you now can get more in depth onto not only just your viewership, but how many minutes watched, where are people coming from, where are people going, what kind of games do people like,
That's the streamers that share in your community, because that tells you who you should start partnering with in Among Us games or whatever. Yeah, absolutely. I've learned that I thought I was going to have more of a share of community with my boyfriend. That is not the case. The buddy of my boyfriend, I share much more share of a community entanglement. So I've been throwing him, hosties or whatever, and using my analytics to find out, okay, well, I guess I better start working with Terry more, or whatever, and see what happens, because it's about trying stuff out, sticking things on the wall, finding out what sticks,
right,
and kind of taking it from there. And analytics kind of helps you figure out what to fling them to the wall on the first place, I guess, metaphorically.
Exactly. We talked about that earlier, where it's there's a lot of unknowns, and
Yeah.
you're going to try different hats and different projects, and being able to look at the numbers can help drive towards what is working for your channel, what's not.
Oh yeah.
I
You
do
don't want
think
to
the
pay attention
managerial
too
side
much.
of things is one we were talking about, like the new opportunities for roles and stuff. I do think the managerial side is an
Yeah.
interesting one. Patreon managers and YouTube managers, stream managers, of course, agencies and management firms themselves who handle some of that stuff. Marketing management, all these things. There's like a big open space for managing different subsets or having like your entire brand managed by somebody or a group.
Oh yeah. If I were to say anything, I was Towley's brand manager for a very long time. Under that umbrella that entailed, I know how to prepare taxes now. My mom is an accountant. So early on, I learned how to do like streamer taxes. So it was kind of nice to know exactly kind of, the breakdown of figuring out, okay, so I've been an accountant for a streamer before. I've been a personal assistant, brand manager, social media, kind of watching the analytics and stuff like that. It gets really in depth if you're not a streamer, but you're kind of assisting a streamer. Like if you're a spouse sometimes and you're like a working spouse team thing, it can get pretty in depth and involved. I'm sitting there and I'm trying to make dinner and we're talking about the thing that, Rob's got to talk about. Like, yeah, I got to, we're still going to discuss that thing about the contract. And I'm sitting there, I'm like trying to make dinner. Okay, that's cool. And we're like having a meeting while I'm trying to feed the dog and we're trying to feed each other. And it gets a little crazy. It's very unique, but it's one of those, speaking of hats, we just, sometimes they bleed together and they get a little meshy there. But it's one of those things to where not only knowing how to stream in the front end, but learning how to stream in the back end is super duper important.
Yeah,
I think that made me realize that we haven't actually tried to cover what all the roles are.
Oh no!
Like
we're moving into it right now. I think we're working backwards.
That would have normally been the thing that we'd start with. Is like, right, okay, let's discuss the basics. Like, what are the different hats that streamers have to wear? And we went right into the deep end of like getting into the good nitty gritty.
So I think for the manager role, I think that's emerging for like two reasons. I think the first one is there's so much more money in streaming now. Like companies are realizing the value that streamers have, and they want to work with streamers. It used to be, as Lula mentioned in the beginning of the show, it was like, okay, we have to explain what streaming is and why they should work with us, right? We just want a key. And now you have companies with marketing budgets coming to streamers and be like, hey, we want to pay you to play our game. And for a lot of streamers, it's an email management thing. And it's I don't know how to even negotiate with sponsors type thing, where they need that person to help assist with that kind of thing. I think the second aspect of this is the fact that as streaming has become so big, there are so many more hats that we're, obviously talking about now that have grown. And I think it becomes too much for streamers to handle all of that, right? So having a broadcast manager doing a lot of the behind the scenes stuff is super valuable. And I think streamers are realizing that that is something that they should consider. And I think there's a lot of people that are reaching out to do those kind of things.
Because that's their strength.
I actually just recently put out a notice because I was looking for a broadcast manager and I got so many applications. I got like 15 applications from people that have had experience and like are super into it. And it's really cool to see that that's an emerging role, not only for streamers, but also streamers who are pivoting towards just doing that sort of thing.
And so I have a question. So what would the broadcast manager do for you?
I think it's a mix of email management, working with sponsors, event planning, working with the mods on things like that. It's a lot of that behind the scenes stuff, the day-to-day stuff.
And each one of those is a different hat that you have now just put in a box and given to somebody else, right?
Yeah.
Those are the hats that we were wearing before. And then you get a manager and you're like, please, this is too much for my little neck. Please just take these hats. Run with this, please.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right, because it's none of that. You can't do any of that stuff when you're actually engaged in the one thing that you literally have to do and nobody else can, which is the talent, which is the on-stream persona. Actually streaming, you can't do a single other, you can't don one of those other big hats that are all the behind the scenes stuff. So it's like, are you cutting down your streams and like kind of hurting your potential for growth and momentum in order to spend some of your remaining time in the day to focus on these other things? Which, back to what Goobers was saying before about the prioritization, you definitely should have a really high priority of just getting on camera, just like starting the stream. That's a pretty important one. And so other things then have to be sacrificed.
Right?
What's that?
That's the most important hat that you have.
It's the most important hat for a streamer is actually streaming.
Yeah. So if a lot of your other hats are cutting into that, then that's when you really need to reevaluate where your priorities are. Because ultimately no one can wear that hat, right? And that is the most valuable hat you've got.
Yeah, shiny and gold.
That's the one that stays on top. That's the one that you kind of keep up there, because without the stream, everything else is just, why even have anything else like in those hats, I guess you could say, unless you're doing it for somebody else, which in case that's just like, that's a side job business thing, I guess you want to talk about. But no, yeah, I totally understand that part. I meant to ask you, because I know that you guys have done Streamer Square for a long time, and I don't mean to kind of do the reverse thing on you, but like, what have you guys found out that you needed to unload between yourselves to make Streamer Square happen?
Oh God, Rini, help us answer this question.
Yeah, I mean, for me, definitely the broadcast manager role, where for me, all that behind the scenes stuff that I do for my own stream, I definitely need help, because the second that, streaming on its own is a full-time job, and then the second you take on something new as big as Streamer Square has grown to be, things start to slack, things start to fall apart. And for me, that is as much as like, planning, figure out what games are coming up and being able to see ahead what games are coming up and doing things for those games. Having a manager kind of being able to look ahead and watch your back so that you can focus on your other projects, I think has been super, super, super important.
I'm only asking because I know I'm going to have to break and actually have to get somebody soon to help me out, because I'm doing a bunch of stuff for Tally. I'm doing a bunch of stuff for myself, and I've yet to even get a single person to help me do any of it. And I understand, and I know I should have done this a long time ago. It's just one of those things. I'm afraid to like let it go, and I'm afraid to give my baby to somebody to take care of for me. But I understand that it's starting to be one of those things. So I'm half asking for the stream, and I'm half asking to take notes, because I just need to figure this out myself.
Yeah, no, I've actually been pushing for more streamers to get APA, because I just don't think it's something that streamers realize that they could really benefit from. And it doesn't have to be a super intricate role. It really can just be like day-to-day, minute little task. But, I've seen so many streamers struggle with balancing everything and feeling like they're drowning from all the stress and not having a personal assistant to help them. Like, I highly recommend looking into it, because there's so much that you can offload that you don't actually need to do. And freeing up that time and that energy is so important. Especially that energy thing, just having the energy to work on other things, work on your stream, to just stream, honestly. Have that energy to stream.
Sometimes it's as simple as something that's not often considered is switching gears. I 100% cannot end a stream and go right into a different work mode to handle other stuff that needs to be done, unless there's a fire that I have to put out, and then I do it because I have to. But just switching the roles right then and there becomes very challenging. Whereas having an assistant of some sort, a manager, a personal assistant, somebody who's taking that work off of your plate, that doesn't just remove that work from your plate. It also removes the energy and time that it takes to shift into another role out of the 39 hats you're wearing. Every single time you do that, you lose some attention and progress on the last thing you were working on, and you have to spend extra time and energy to bring everything into your mind to work on the new thing that you're focusing on. And that's doubly wasteful. Whereas if you have somebody else who's just doing that stuff, they're just flowing. They're just going, they're just doing their job, doing the work. All that's getting done in like half the time.
Oh, that's good to know, actually, because even describing that makes me feel a lot lighter for some reason. So, like, as a motivational
Right.
speaker, you're doing so well right now
Got him.
to
Hunter's good at that.
get me to get off my butt and actually try to hire somebody. So, lulaboogaming@gmail.com. Please send me your resumes. Thank
I can
you.
forward you some of mine who applied to my position.
Okay,
Yeah.
for sure. Let me know.
Yeah, my newest hire actually came out of Streamer Square applications. Yeah.
Oh, that's rad. Actually, that's
Yeah.
really neato. Well, I have another question. Do you guys still do your own video editing? Do you
No.
guys, did you
I
have a
never
video
did.
edited? And if you did, do you still do it? Or if not, do you have somebody do it for you? Was it ever a thing you learned to do yourself in the first place?
Never.
I can edit on my phone because it's like touch and drag a thing. Like that's as far as I can.
I've made clips.
I can make a clip.
And then if I need like it like stitched to another one, that's when I give it to a mod to stitch together. No, I have always had a video editor or someone to do that kind of thing because it's something that I'd have to learn from scratch, and I know it's so time consuming. It's just never something that was worth it to me to learn.
No, it really is. I learned how to do it in a weekend and realized the error of my ways when I realized I can do it because it just takes so much time now. And I let it, and it's one of those things where, I let it go because I didn't like the time sink was not worth it for me at the time. But I've had a lot of people clamoring, like, I miss your YouTube videos. I'm like, okay, I guess it's time for an editor. So it's one of those things, not only that you figure out where your strengths are at. I know my strengths are at, I'm starting to, if I, make YouTube really great, it's a good idea to like bring that back up again, not necessarily for me, but giving that hat to somebody else would definitely be something that I would have to do. And it's something that you do for sure.
Yeah, one of the things that pops into my head too that's a bit of a complication on this is a matter of voice. Like, I don't think that I could hand my Twitter account, for instance, entirely over to somebody else because my voice is the way that I phrase things, the kinds of stuff that I point out is somewhat unique to me. And somebody else could mimic it a little bit, but it wouldn't have the same appeal.
It wouldn't be authentic either, I think.
Right. Yeah, it wouldn't be authentic. And I could see that also being the case for some video editing. Because I've, especially having gone through the process with several video editors at different points in my career now, they have like the different editing styles and there's like a different tone and voice to each one of them. And so that really identifies to me that everybody can do their editing very differently in the same way that I'm presenting a different personality on the stream or on my Twitter account. So I can see some cases where it's very valuable for somebody to hold on to the ownership of editing their own videos because somebody else isn't going to be able to nail it in exactly the same way that you've been doing it, which may be a big boon to keep that voice.
And that's one of those things that I always try to pay attention to. Not so much with social media. I wouldn't mind, for me personally, I wouldn't mind if I could unload that social media hat somewhere because sometimes it is a lot to sit there and just peruse, or as they're calling it now, as the young kids are calling it now, doom scrolling.
Doom scrolling.
Oh boy.
So I would literally pay somebody to go through that for me because at least the way it is right now. But to have somebody kind of put together, okay, here's your graphic for your upcoming event. Here's the wordage that you want to put out there. If you want to edit it, go for it. And then we're going to schedule it for you. Here it is. That is something that I wouldn't mind having that done for me because that sounds super.
That's totally in a PA role right there. Like getting all that done, like coordinating with the mods, making sure that there's a schedule, thumbnail, like getting an announcement out to your Discord, reaching out to like potential sponsors for your event.
You guys are blowing my mind right now.
Coordination is a really interesting one when somebody else takes it over. I had no idea how much it's one of those hidden things. I've actually been learning a lot about this from some of the books I've been reading about email as this massive like time sink that a lot of people do not even consider. But like just coordinating schedules or coordinating with moderators and stuff can take a surprising amount of time that you don't notice because it's only done in like 3-minute chunks, right? You just have a little bit of a conversation and you go off and do something else. But when you're adding up all of the time that it takes to coordinate across all these platforms with multiple people for multiple things, if you just put that onto somebody else, you could save like 10 hours a week. It could be mind-boggling that you don't even notice until it's gone. And I'm like, why do I have so much time? Why do I actually have 2 hours in the night every day to just eat dinner and watch a movie now? Like,
God,
I can
that sounds
relax
amazing.
sometimes?
Stop.
It's great. Yeah, I know.
No,
So
and I get it.
interesting.
That's the thing about like keeping all my hats on, is that I don't have enough hours in the day to accomplish everything that I want to accomplish.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting there and I love it. It's weird because it's this weird dichotomy where like you love being busy, but at the same time you hate that you're busy because you're doing all these things. But for me, it's knowing that everything is done right, done my way, done exactly the way I wanted to get done. Otherwise, I don't feel like it's going to be a product I'm going to be very comfortable in being able to kind of broadcast out there. I guess you could say which is probably a reason why I like to hold on to stuff like that. You know, doing my own social media, doing my own video editing, streaming, emailing. That's all one of those things too. You know, I have to figure out, or in the future, everybody else who's kind of thinking about it too has to figure out what are they comfortable offloading, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's definitely something.
So that I can relate to, because, you know, I think when you start streaming, it's just you control everything. And I'm kind of the same way, where I like to be in control of everything. And
Yes.
what can you tell them that type of person? What are you talking about? It's been one of the most important lessons that I've learned as I've been doing this now for 6 years, where it's like you have to put trust into people and be comfortable with just giving them direction, letting them do it, believing in them, and then, you know, there's communication down the line if it's not working out or you want things changed differently. I have personally put a lot of my trust in my mod team, and been like, hey, like, I want to kind of do this thing. If you guys want to help out, go ahead. And they kind of just ended up taking over, doing it without me even being involved, and put together this amazing like community event thing that we're doing next month. So, you know, I think letting go of being able to, or having to be in control of everything, and being able to just delegate. Delegation is super, 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 super important.
I think
Not
assertiveness-
micromanage everything.
Not micromanaging everything? Oh, yeah. Oh, it's so dangerous and deadly. So one of the things that has come up for me more and more as the years have gone by, and I've offloaded and delegated a lot of the responsibilities that just aren't well suited for me, that I shouldn't be doing, is this quality of assertiveness, where it's so easy for a lot of us to go either one way or the other, where it's like aggression, and you're just like, no, you do it this way. This is exactly how it has to get done. No exceptions. Or somebody else is fiddling with stuff in a way that you don't like, and it's your stuff, right? Because you've delegated to an assistant or something, and you're like, oh, yeah, that's totally fine. Great job. When it's really not. And that middle ground of assertiveness of like, hey, this is really cool. Can we fix this and this? And I feel like the tone could be a little bit different, but you're on the right track. That kind of stuff, where it's like balancing and navigating that as like a managerial style, starts becoming really important. And it's a thing that I think you have to open yourself up to learn, that you're not going to get it right when you're just stepping out to have an assistant for the first time. You have no idea what you're doing. Work with them to try and figure that out and balance it well.
Yeah, there's going to be some growth involved there, and it always comes down to communication, and you know, don't settle for, you know, being secretly upset at things, and then, you know, letting that kind of stuff build up, right? That like resentment. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I mean, that's the nature of it. Like, you have to think about streaming at a certain point when it's your business as a business. Like, you are the CEO of your business. Okay. Does the CEO backs things and make I don't know.
Like hand delivering each little product to somebody. Is that the CEO's job?
Yeah, like, you gotta establish some heads of your departments and let them do things, and then, like, you know, if you need things tweak them, but you don't have to watch them every single step of the way, you know?
No, I didn't. Yeah. Go ahead.
There was a question actually from Chick Drummer, who asked, I'm not sure. Oh wait, nope, that's the wrong question. At what point in your growth do you feel it is best to start reaching out and hiring people like an editor?
We get those kinds of questions quite a bit.
Oh, is this asking me?
The panel here. Anyone?
Okay.
Answer at your leisure.
Well, it's a little bit of a tricky question because I can tell you, while my cooking stream might have the really good numbers in there, I find it hard to actually get people to subscribe to my channel. Like,
Sure.
I do not. The amount of energy that I put in here into my cooking channel is absolutely disproportionate to the amount of income that I get from it. So for me to even try to say I want to hire a video editor or a PA right now, I couldn't realistically do it. Not right now. Because I would need to like get in those other big dollar bills to do that. And even at my level, I'm still kind of internally crunching the numbers while we're talking here to see if that's possible. So that is a really hard question, in whether or not you want to put the investment in there.
I think it is personal. I don't think it's the kind of thing that can be prescribed from the outside. That's just like, hey, as soon as you're making $1,200 a month from streaming, that's when you hire an editor. Like, that kind of thing doesn't tend to apply well.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to your goals, your priorities, and your budget. So if you have a lot of other expenses with streaming, like you just got to run the numbers and figure out what is really important. Like if you put some things out on YouTube, it's doing really well, but you just don't have the time anymore, it might be worth considering finding an editor.
Yeah.
And that's like something that can be, you can find out their rates, get estimates on how much projects would cost you, so you can figure out how much you're investing, put a cap on their hours or something. Like you can manage every aspect of this if you want to make it work for you, your budget, and what you want to accomplish. Like there's not like a set amount, like, oh, if you get a video editor, you automatically have this amount of expenses, right? So a lot of it's super flexible. If you have a full-time job and you're doing this on the side and you want to put some money towards it because you want to be serious about it, like, then maybe you should hire an editor right off the bat and have like establish a workflow for your content,
Yeah.
It really depends to some, and it really depends on the editor too, because I know editors who pay by the hour and those others who pay by the video. So it's finding the right one for your needs, and finding out first and foremost, is YouTube going to be your strength of yours? It's they always say that it's good to diversify your content because you never know when Twitch is going to go poof or YouTube's going to go poof. So it's always been that whole thing where it doesn't matter where you branch off to, but branch off. Like, and of course the what is it? The standard issued branch off places are like, Twitch, YouTube. A lot of people are doing OnlyFans. So, there's avenues out there. And if you find that the avenue to branch off is a strength of yours that you want to upkeep, then it might be worth justifying the amount of money. But that's just, like you said, super personal.
Yeah, I think it is. It's kind of difficult to navigate, kind of for that reason. I think what kind of stands out to me, and it seems somewhat obvious, but I think there are a lot of interesting factors that you can pull into it, is, getting another position to pay for itself. Or at least you're not losing money for a significant period of time. Maybe at the beginning, you don't know exactly how it's going to pan out, but setting a bit of a plan, some expectations, goals for y'all to collaborate, to work on the thing sort of together, at least conceptually, to get it to a point that you want it to be, where it is paying for itself. If you at least hit an even keel with the money, I feel like that's far more than sufficient, because it's saving so much time for me, energy I can invest into the things that really bring me to life, which then convey to the audience when I'm streaming or chatting with people. If I'm worn down because I'm just working too hard, I drain everybody else around me too. And you see it in the content. But if I get to save some of that energy for myself by having something else just pay for itself, I'm not earning a lot, I'm not getting a ton of exposure, it's holding its own. I end up saving a lot more on my personal time and energy, which is a huge win in this industry, because it's rare to be able to do that. And we're trying to kind of, through this project of Streamer Square, that's kind of what we're trying to help people do, is get the most bang for the buck for their time and energy, and find alternative routes to success.
Yeah, I feel like YouTube is a perfect example of this because a lot of us who do YouTube, it's mostly to put your stream content up there, and it may not lead to a large amount of money, and you hope to at least break even from if you're hiring an editor, right? But even if you're running at a reasonable loss, you're still like, as long as the videos are doing well and you're growing, like, that's marketing. You're
Yeah.
Yeah.
all you're doing is spending
Oh,
money
yes.
on marketing, which is an expense. Like, so you can actually run a YouTube even at a loss, as so long as you're, meeting your goals.
I completely
Yeah.
agree.
'Cause
Agreed.
not
'Cause-
everything is about money at the bottom line, right? Like, you have to
No.
grow your brand.
Yeah. It's the bottom line is really the last place that you should stop. There's so many priorities, but you have to be able to survive.
Yeah.
You want
Oh,
to keep
yeah.
your head above water so you don't literally drown, but all those other priorities should be higher up there. As long as you're keeping that from like being destitute and literally homeless, then kind of all right.
Oh yeah. Well, just a really quick branch off on that. I wanted to say that some, if you're sitting there trying to bring in new brands to kind of work with and, to get on board the streaming space, there are some people who don't understand Twitch, but they understand YouTube. So sometimes a way to kind of I guess you would put it as a gateway to kind of into your brand would have to be, especially more of the mainstream brands. Like I have been, as a cooking streamer, I have been trying to get out there, and it's one of those hats you got to wear, where you have to try to reach out to unconventional sources as a cooking streamer. So I've been like hitting up Williamson Sonoma, KitchenAid, XO Good Grips. I've been trying to hit up like Breville, just all those brands, and I've come to find that they absolutely have no idea what the heck Twitch is. So I've been having to do this angle. Well, YouTube, here's my YouTube, and you all understand YouTube and stuff like that, but this is live. And so it's one of those things to where sometimes making sure you diversify so that you can find success is going to be definitely one of those things, especially if you're trying to find some really not so cohesive brands that go into streaming, I guess you could say.
This is a really interesting point, but I had not quite considered that factor before. That diversification, which is wearing probably like 5 or 6 different hats just to do all that stuff. It opens up avenues for people to understand what it is that you do without having to try and explain to them at length what to them is this super niche thing of Twitch. What to us on the inside is like, it is massive. This is a huge platform.
Yeah, and you can't even describe how big it is. Like you just have to kind of show them, and they kind of have to figure out themselves how deep this rabbit hole goes on Twitch. For sure.
If you have that sprinkling in those other avenues, it's like, oh, do you use Twitter? Do you watch YouTube videos? Oh, have you heard of TikTok? It's like you can find something that somebody can connect with you on if you diversify that with your 18 other hats.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I would say just to post regularly on TikTok is a freaking hat in itself. I don't even have it, and and I find the prospect of going on TikTok very not intimidating, just like say, all right, here's another one. What am I going to learn to dance on next? What song should I dance to right now or whatever? So creating content on every aspect possible. I'm learning how to do quick videos so I can try and, post them up on TikTok. And it's just another hat I'm going to have to learn how to wear, how to manage TikTok, how to learn the analytics and the algorithms on TikTok. It's just going to be a whole other thing on its own. And it's all about learning and figuring out, looking at trends and being observant and having your eyeballs, really trying to pay attention, not just to the content, but like when the content's being posted, what kind of content's being posted, just stuff like that. It's one of those.
Yeah, that's stuff. So that's one of those emerging new hats. Instagram being one of them too, like being your own photographer. Like I know some people hire people, but if you're casual like me at Instagram, you're just taking selfies on your phone. You have a tripod that has like a button you press, like a selfie stick or something. You get a little equipment, you set it up, right? You take your own photos, and then do you edit your own photos? Do you use like a phone app, and you have to post them and schedule them, and that's like a whole thing too, right? I mean, it's just one of those other ways to market yourself and to grow.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think
yeah.
what I do for that is I've hired out 2 cats, and I just take pictures of them, and I don't even have to edit or anything. I just post them, and it's just thousands of likes just start flowing.
Like that's the easy way too. I have food pictures. Like I'm learning food
Yes.
photography. Oh gosh. So my Instagram is literally, I stopped even doing selfies. It's just all food pictures. So when I'm done with my cooking streams, I'm like, all right, we can't eat anything yet, guys. I gotta take a picture real quick. And then it got to the point where I actually got a portable light box. So it's one of
You
those
put them
like,
in there?
yeah, so I put my food in this
Oh.
portable light box and I'm learning how to like take pictures in this portable light box for the first time. And then there's like final backgrounds I can put on there. And so this is
Yeah.
like I'm hitting a whole new level of
The
like,
collapsible one?
yeah, it's one of those collapsible
Cool.
ones. Yeah, so
Great.
it's one of those new hats that I'm wearing recently where I'm trying to learn food photography so I can not only make a cookbook one day, which is a whole new other thing in itself. I recently released one cookbook and I'm just trying to make another one happen eventually.
Really?
Yeah, so
How
it's an
cool.
e-cookbook and I'm working with Teespring on it. And I worked with Teespring on it. So it's there available if you want to see it. But now I want to like up my picture game and up my recipe game. So now I bought this light box thing so I can take pictures and I post it on Instagram and I have to hashtag the world to it, and everything and
Yeah.
and learning the intricacies of Instagram in itself is a whole new job. A whole
Mhm.
nother job in itself.
It
For sure.
kind of reminds me of something that you mentioned is you are taking your pictures during your stream,
Yes.
being able to, uh, wear 2 hats at the same time. Sometimes knocking out some of that work in between, I think, is super super valuable, right? And that's inevitable to kind of have a lot of that stuff overlap.
Oh yeah. Oh yes, it's definitely going to be a thing where it's going to happen that way where eventually you're going to have to start doing a couple of things at the same time when, learning how to stream, clip on the fly, download that clip and then post it natively on Twitter is one of those things that if you can try it and accomplish that within like 5 minutes of that clip happening, you're a superstar. Congratulations, that is amazing.
Yeah.
Because that is also like multitasking to the nth degree is also something that you kind of learn and accumulate over time as a streamer, because first thing you learned is how to like be in front of the camera and stream and talk or whatever and play video games at the same time. The hard part is checking chat and playing video games at the same time and then like interacting with chat, and then it just kind of branches from there. Okay, so after this, acknowledge when an alert goes off when you finally hear it for the first time and you're not forcing the alert yourself or something. So and it builds from there. You figure out, okay, well, I guess I better get the social medias. Okay, I guess I better take better, when's the good time of day to post on social medias? That's when it branches off.
Yeah. What is my optimal post time?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
that is the whole thing.
I'm just thinking about the roles that you wear while you're streaming. And obviously if you're gaming, you're a gamer. But you're also an entertainer because you have to add commentary, you have to read chat. You're
Theatrics.
Yeah, you're like the actor, actress. You're also the community leader because you're putting on events, plugging your Discord, you're leading the way, right? You're also the producer. You're doing scenes, right? You're adjusting the volume, right? Making sure everything's working smoothly. So you're directing the show as well.
The director.
Like, what to do when. What other roles during
Marketing is another one.
Which one?
Marketing while you're streaming, because you're going to want to occasionally do some cross promotion. That's like, hey, go follow on Twitter, or I posted this new video, or did you see all the new Patreon I launched, or whatever it happens to be.
Especially after you get rated or hosted. Yeah.
Yes.
Those, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Navigating a lot of that territory is kind of wearing a marketing hat for yourself as well. Calls to action and all that stuff that you're doing on stream.
And then don't forget to thank everybody who hosted you. Thank everybody who, like, after you're done, you go on social media, you thank everybody who, like,
greeter,
who
you're
hosted
the
you.
thanker.
You got to give your host to somebody else and say who it is. The same thing. It gets a little crazy. So it's one of, like, oof, that sort of stuff builds over time. Now that I think about it and I'm like verbalizing it out loud like this, it sounds like a lot. And after a while, it doesn't feel like a lot. It just feels automatic to do so.
For
So
sure.
for anybody who feels super overwhelmed about any prospects of having to check off all these boxes while they're doing their stuff, please know that I made a pre-recorded video every time somebody hosts or raids me, so I didn't have to keep doing it myself.
Yeah.
And
I started making raid videos too. Yeah. Right.
yeah,
Same
so like
reason.
it's basically like a 30-second commercial of my stream and what it's about, so that I can stop being like every single time, okay, what's up everyone? Like it, I got real lazy. So but it works and it helps out for a lot of stuff. So ticking off those boxes, it gets easier over time, I promise. It just takes a lot of practice.
I think
Yeah.
moderation is probably one. I don't know if that was on the list that you mentioned, but every streamer at some point has to do some of their own core moderation, just banning somebody, purging something, stuff like that.
Oh yes. Some people think they need to really sit down and justify why they banned somebody. That's not the case. If it is your channel and you do not feel like having that comment in your channel, just ban that. Purge it if you want. Ban it if you want to permanently get rid of it. That is on you. I find that having to sit there and people thinking that they have to justify whatever ban is, that's unnecessary. That's a waste of energy.
Yeah. If you
Energy's
don't want
annoying.
someone in your channel, it doesn't even have to like hit one of the rules that you set, right? Like if they're making you uncomfortable, just ban them. You have to set the rules too as a streamer, right?
Yeah.
So you like have to sort that out beforehand, coordinate with your mods. You're kind of leading that whole team to make sure that the channel is behaving in a way that you want it
Which
to.
is like a policymaker hat almost.
Yeah.
Like defining the rules of the game.
Yeah. Another one I mentioned is public relations, which I wish we had more time to like dive into this. But like, man, I've sometimes I wish that big streamers would hire a PR manager or something, because the apology videos that you see, or people doubling down on like bad takes or bad things that they've done, or even just like not being aware of what they're doing or saying on stream.
Agreed.
And not handling it well afterwards. Yeah,
That is
that's
a hat.
Yeah.
I've actually sat down with my boyfriend. Please don't tweet that. Don't tweet. I would love it if you just did. Can you say that in your Discord instead, or something like? Can you tell your best friend who's not on, on Twitch or streaming or whatever? But please do not tweet that. And it's one of those things for sure. If some bigger management agencies I know used to have or do have a PR department, and require you to have media training to kind of avoid stuff like this, but not everybody. Obviously, there are some people who are just going to be out there, be their most authentic selves, for better or for worse. But it would be nice to, I don't know, see. And it's a personal choice up to everybody, right? So I'm being more family friendly. I made a choice to stop swearing as much and be more family friendly, because I wanted to really get those cooking centric sponsorships that are 100% family friendly, and that means cutting down on like those dick and fart jokes and not swearing so much.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where you have to start consciously thinking about, if you're up there in that searching for brands out there to pay attention to you, it's like, what kind of brand do you want to push that you want to attract, I guess?
Yes. Absolutely, yes. Yeah, the PR thing is an interesting one. It's got me thinking so many thoughts. I've definitely adapted that hat for myself over time, because I know there was a time earlier in my career when, if somebody made some off-color remark in chat, I would spend too much time talking about that, and it would disturb some people. It's like, this isn't what I'm here for. And that can be fine if that's where you want to go. But over time, I eventually learned to figure out which ones of those I could turn into content. Like, I had a flat earther who was just vehemently just talking about it to no end in my chat, and I spent 10 minutes on this subject with him, but that was because it was content. Like, I could see it in that moment that I was like, the rest of my chat is going to be eating this up. This is hilarious.
Yeah.
Whereas other subjects, it's like everybody would be better off if I just shut my mouth right now and got on with everything else that the stream is about, because I'm not adding anything. They're not getting entertainment out of it. Nothing is generating out of that.
Yeah.
And to have help with that, with somebody who knows what tone should be what you should strike there, what should be avoided, and giving you little pokes and prods to help you refine that over time be very valuable.
That's totally the director role, I think. The director hat. And anything else? Any other big ones before we wrap up the show that we missed? We didn't really talk about accounting or the whole financial side.
Oh, that's
Or
a
invoicing.
whole separate. Like that isn't. I could talk an hour and a half of that straight. I don't even.
Hey, great. We'll have you back on for that show.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, we
There
should.
are things. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say that would be a great Your Brand, Your Business episode because they do that kind of thing, right? The financial planning aspect, and Lula can jump on like to talk about that because that is such an important one that I think no one knows about. Even like just like as simple as invoicing is something that a lot of streamers aren't really aware
Holy
of.
crap! I once got paid before I actually finished a sponsored thing because I turned in my W-9, my invoice like right away, and then all of it like a week later before, and then like I would say like 3 days before the sponsored opportunity happened, I got a check mailed to me. Like people like really should mail their or do their invoices right away. I don't know why people wait. It's one of those things. Yeah. Learning how to invoice, learning how to manage activation sponsorships is like super duper important. Relations with brands and what to do, what not to do, how to deduct all of that in your business expenses as a streamer. Like this right here on my face, this is all tax deductible, by the way, because I put on makeup on my stream at the beginning of the stream. And so now I can go to Sephora or Ulta guilt-free and, get my makeup on and get that tax deducted.
Yep.
Amazing.
When I had my super beefy beard, same thing with like getting my beard brush and the oils and whatnot. Same thing.
Yeah, and being able to like separate your finances, like having a business account.
Oh, for sure.
Bank account. Having a bank account, not leaving money in your PayPal. Don't leave all your money in your PayPal, please.
Oh, please don't.
No.
Please don't.
Yes.
Just a really quick rundown on financials. Get a business account.
Yeah.
But you need to like get somebody to set you up on an LLC. There are now people out there. There are streamer-centric lawyers and accountants and financial planners that are out there. I promise. And if you want to know what they are, I will just hit me up on Twitter. I will like link them to you who can help you out. I've had somebody. I had somebody help me do an LLC so I can like set up a business account and have everything separate and get everything taken care of. It's a whole big business. It's a whole big process, and it's too big for like the last 30 seconds of the show. So we'll talk about it later.
It's not super painful, but it's definitely a process.
It's a process.
I mean, yeah, and again, it's worth looking into because it can be a huge money saver. I mean, you could pay $750 in tax if you just, work things out appropriately. Anyways, that'll be a different show. That'll be probably a Your Brand, Your Business show at some point in the future. But that is gonna do it for us today. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Hunter is dead. I've crushed his soul.
Man, what have you done?
Unfortunately, Goobers had his internet or his power go out completely.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, so we'll do. Hunter, can you do Goober's shout out for him?
Yes, I can. He's a screaming streamer. That's as far as I can. I don't know what else does he do. He's got the what's it called? The charity fundraiser coming up soon. That's the metal
fundraiser, metal theme fundraiser.
Yes. Cook metal. Oh God.
Metalocalypse? No,
Meltdown.
Metal meal meltdown. Cool.
Metal meal meltdown. Okay.
Yeah.
So check him out. Check out Goobers. We're sorry that his internet derped, his power derped. But we'll get him back on. So don't worry. Do not worry. Lula, what about you? Tell us where we can find you and what you're up to.
Hi, my name's Lula. I'm a cooking streamer, and today we did a talk show. You can find me at fail_Lula on Instagram and fail_Lula on Twitter. I have a youtube.com/Lulaboo Jenkins. You can find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Lulaboo. And you can find me in any of those places you want to talk about cooking, football, makeup, World of Warcraft, and lots of Mexican food.
The diversity of topics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
we're doing a
haven't,
fantasy football recap later on today.
Y'all are playing fantasy?
Yeah, I have a community fantasy football league.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
Hunter, what about you?
Shout out. Oh, right. I am the Hunter Wild. You could normally find me on twitch.tv/the Hunter Wild, but I am taking an intermission right now to work on a bunch of behind the scenes projects. I think we have 36 or 38 projects over this intermission. It's a whole beefy endeavor, and I am loving it. You can also find me right here next to the brilliant Loco every Monday. She and I are co-owners of Streamer Square. Loco founded it 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 6 years ago. It's been 84 years. So you can find us here on Mondays for this very show that we love so, so much. And y'all can expect a whole heck of a lot more in the coming months, as Loco was describing at the beginning of the show, where we dive into the individual roles and hats that streamers wear that we talked about generally and broadly today.
Yeah, for sure. So if you guys like this type of content, make sure to hit the follow button on the Twitch channel. We do 6 shows every single week here. So, follow, come check us out Monday through Wednesday. Right now is when our shows are going live. We cover everything from the moderator side of things to the business and financial side of things, and our general streaming topics. So if you guys like this stuff, hit the follow button, come back, and you can find me at twitch.tv/loco, where I talk about streaming, gaming, and also game. So I play games. And that's pretty much it. That's what I do. I do this, I do streaming, and I do the streaming. Okay, so that's going to do it for us today on the stream scene. Our next shows are going to be tomorrow. Come check out our shows. We've got a moderator focused show and behind the streams and Dan's stream of thoughts. We'll see you next time. Have a great rest of your Monday.